All right, welcome. Today I am busy interviewing Kevin Ncube. Is that right? Kevin, did I pronounce it right?
It is Kevin Ncube with a E at
Ncube.
the end. Yes.
All right, great, great. And we're going to be talking about the truth about the banks and how Kevin has had an experience with the banks and obviously been assisted by Advocate Douglas Shaw and also with certain attorneys as well. But he's going to be giving us a bit of insight as to what his experience has been, so that if there is anyone out there who's had a similar experience, you can have some idea of what options you have. So, Kevin, can you tell us what actually happened to you with the banks? What has been your experience?
I may start just by where it started for me to be in communication with the banks. I'm an executor of an estate, of my late father's estate. And upon trying to sum up the estate, my discovery was that there was the documents missing. As a responsible executor, you need documentation, and some of them are with the banks. When you request documentation, it does not exist, and sometimes they do refuse to give it to you, even though you prove them as to who you prove to them as to who you are. And that's initially what had happened. And I've been struggling for over 5 years, trying to get some reaction from the banks, or this particular bank. A week or two ago, I received a foreclosure to say they are taking the property, and I've been fighting that since I started this matter with them. Unfortunately, because I'm intending to defend the matter, they want to negotiate outside the courts, but still they have not given me any documentation leading to their claim.
So one of the main things is like you've asked for documentation, but they just don't seem to give it to you. No matter how many times you ask them, it's just something that's an elusive thing. Is that what you're saying? Yes,
I have had a chain of numbers, telephone numbers and names. Every 3 months or in every occasion, whenever you get to closure, they send you to some place or to someone else who's going to start from scratch, and their response is always not complete. They will either tell you to go to a specific place and to find documentation. When you're about to reach the conclusion, they tell you the next person will give you the documentation. It has been a struggle. I personally went to see the bank managers or the bank legal department. This particular one, it was in Gandhi Square in Johannesburg, and I sat down with them. This was in 2011. I sat down with them for almost an hour, which they seem to have understood. A day later, I received a letter of demand, and there was no documents attached. I wrote to the particular CEO, and my email was ignored or was sent to a call center. Whereby the call center administrator did not even know what they were talking about. And I had written tons of letters to the bank. They don't respond. I guess in a way, they're not intending to be transparent about anything.
Yeah, do you feel like you were treated fairly or ethically at all, or what's your feeling of how you were treated?
First of all, ethically, no, in a sense that if you have a claim from someone, you need to produce or provide a form of evidence why you're claiming. Yes, you might have the trail of how the events transpired before their claim, but there should be documentation leading to that. I'll give you an instance in this particular one that I'm dealing with. They gave a bond to a 63-year-old person. This is at the time of the NCA. The NCA was enacted in the 1st of July, and the contract is signed the 7th of July. So I questioned to say, how was the assessment done? That was not provided to me. As it is said, they clearly denied to say there was any foul play. But when I asked them to produce documents, they say it was private to the bank. That's one. That was not ethical in the sense that they did not provide any evidence of their claim. Secondly, is the fact that they they would promise one thing and act on and act differently. For example, they promise me to give documentation or to be willing to be negotiable. Then the next thing you get a summons. Thirdly, is that they taking you pillar to post. No one is answerable. You cannot find anyone who would actually listen to you and take you through the crux of the matters that you're trying to address with the bank. They will never give you evidence of anything. In my experience, they haven't given me evidence of anything. And in this case, it has been again talking of unethical. I'm an executor. The powers of an executor is to have proof of every claim so they can be able to pay. And in the 5 years, my standing as an executor has been compromised, in a sense that I have not been a proper executor because of the bank not willing to give the supporting documentation to their claim. And unfortunately, in this case, they are supposedly a secured debtor, or a secured creditor, but they have not given me anything to support that. And I've been requesting them from pillar to post. They have been sending me to different. I can count approximately 20 to 30 people I've spoken to in the past 5 years, and every one of them claims to know the processes. And I find it very strange that the bank would take such routes in the best interest of their clients. They don't have interest in their clients.
No, they've got interest in themselves, right?
Yes, definitely. And I think it is all economical. In this, as I told you again, that they gave a 63-year-old person a bond, and on top of that, they had not in the supposedly a contract. There is no indication whether the bond was secured or what the money was for. What I know, in many contracts that you sign, especially when it comes to home loans, is either you do find whether it is a building bond for land or for to buy a complete home. In this case, there's no evidence of where the money went to. Yes, it is obviously everyone would know that when you borrow money from the bank would directly give it to you, but we don't have that evidence. And I've been requesting.
They don't have a place where they can say, this is where the money came from. This is our accounting, how our accounting thing is working, that we can say this is where the money came from. It just kind of like appears out of thin air. Is that what you're saying?
In this case, well, that's what it seems to me, because no one has given me proof of the incidences that led to this loan. And if you look at, they say, a dead man tells no tales, or in this case, the person has passed on. I cannot prove anything. The bank has to prove their claim, but they have not. And unfortunately, in this instance, or in many instances that I've been through, I've been with approximately 6 attorneys, except Advocate Shaw. Prior to that, they are afraid of the banks, in a sense that the bank will drag the matter till you have no powers to defend.
They're going to try to keep it going.
They keep it going so long that you do not have powers to defend. And I think in that sense, the other attorneys, I'm not saying attorneys are not good out there. All I'm saying, they already know the implication of chasing a giant like a bank. To say they will do their best not to give you what you want up until they strip your energies out.
Everything of you. Okay. Well, so I just want to clarify a little bit. So you had judgments obviously come. The bank put on judgments on you. What was the actual? Where did it all come about? I mean, you've had a few judgments and they've served papers. What kind of papers? What has been served on you, and for what? And what has actually been the whole build up to this?
Okay. Initially, it came as a negotiation and to provide the documents. The next thing I found was a summons for me to respond. In case if and obviously if you respond to a judge to a summons, it would mean that you either defend or enable yourself to pay them. And in this case, I did try and negotiate to say, well, how would it have gone to a stage whereas we are in negotiations? They say I should. They said no, I should not worry. But they wanted to make sure that the negotiations do not crumble. And I realized that they wanted money.
It's an ongoing negotiation, isn't it?
Well, in this case, it's not. I mean, you cannot negotiate with a gun in your face. You know, that's what I told them. How do you negotiate whereas there's a summons? But the summons was an intention for to push things to escalate to, I would say, to accelerate things to a judgment. A few weeks later, I found that they had claimed, in the summons, they claimed that they do not have the documents to the contract. That's one. They were burnt in the fire or whatever. How they lost them. My question was, okay, if that is the case, I'm sure there is conveyancers where people have signed, and conveyancers always keep the copy of a contract or of a certain file. And on top of that, banks, I don't know how stringent in their archiving of documents, but there should be some ISO standard to say, this is how we keep documents. Even when we archive them, we need, oh, well, I still need to investigate further, but these documents are scanned into a soft image. Even if they bend down, there is still some sort of evidence that was a
have some sort. Yes, and that makes logical sense, doesn't it? If you're going to have physical documents, you can't just have physical documents. You need to have them scanned and, you know, keep them aside.
Yeah, that's true. And there is no evidence of who's the person that actually contracted the deceased. Yes, there is a signature, but there is no person, like I would say maybe a GM or a manager or whoever. There is no name. There is just a signature that is not known, and the witnesses are not known. There's a lot of things that are questionable. And according to South African law, unfortunately, there are indications that they've skipped a few things. One is the NCA part. The secondly is how would I put it? There's laws that govern how you contract someone. There's 10 clause to 10 indication that the contract is valid. If should one of those not be covered or not be in a contract, then the contract becomes questionable. For an example, in this case, what they thought it was a contract, or that they thought would indicate what a contract looked like, is totally different from the documents that I have. For example, it gives you an option to say, do you take the insurance that the bank gives you or do you not? You need to make an option. The documents that they gave me is not elected. So if it's not elected, how do we know that the deceased ever took insurance from them? And more so, if they did, where are the documents for the insurance? And if not, you need to prove from who you got the insurance from so you can get your bond. I mean, how do you give a 63-year-old bond? You are a home loan. You're intending them to pay up until they are 83 or 82. I mean, their retirement age is 2 years.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It is complete. So a quick question now. You obviously have been working with Advocate Douglas Shaw quite a bit. How has he been helping you with this? What has your experience been with him? Has it helped working with him? Has he been able to kind of assist you? Because I believe your attorneys briefed him to assist you because he's got a bit more specialized knowledge with this. What has been your experience there so far?
Primarily, the experience is so far good in a sense that I have not lost the property.
That's a good thing.
Yes, and obviously we're in the middle of defending the judgment and finding reasons behind that judgment so it can be withdrawn. Sorry, I'm just getting a call on the other side. I'll lower the volume.
Okay.
And that is one experience that I've had. I mean, saving someone's property, to me, it was a home, because
Yeah.
that I don't think there's a greater deed than that, saving someone's home.
Mm.
The secondly is that the consultations are quite open to finding out what transpired. A conclusion is not taken based on what the summons say. You're given an opportunity to, to give your side of maybe evidence or your perception. And it has been found that I'm not the only one. And I was glad to find that Advocate Shaw has dealt with these matters previously, and that's why I also was comfortable that I'm consulting, or my attorneys are consulting with him.
Because feels like you can trust him a bit more, because he's taking into account your personal self. He's looking at you like a human being instead of looking at you like a piece of paper. Is that how I'm understanding that?
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing, yes, Advocate Shaw is great in a sense that, a person like me cannot present themselves in a legal manner that could be understood. I think he has a great way of expressing, what the intent of defense is and where it lies. Because us as people, we are emotional. You're losing a house, you're panicking, and he is able to take it through and explain and outlay what the reasons are in the court of law. I think he's great in that, and I would recommend anyone who has a case like mine maybe to consult him, or consult the attorneys to consult him as a counselor.
And also, I mean, I've heard as well that he has quite a different, he's got quite a different thought pattern to the normal run-of-the-mill way that the legal fraternity, if you want to call it, works. Yes, he kind of thinks a little bit outside the box, if that makes any sense.
That is definitely true, because as I said earlier, I've been through plus minus 6 attorneys before. And they'd also promised to have a look at this matter. But amazingly, I wasted a lot of money trying to consult. But in this case, they would say, no, pay up. But how would I pay up where there's no evidence? There was another one. Fortunately, I withdrew the matter, who even said I must come up with cash. I mean, how do you come up with cash for 500,000 overnight? And he said, there is no way he can help me if I have to come, if I don't come up with 500 cash, because this would be 500,000 cash, because this would be a better settlement for the bank. Now,
but then that doesn't make sense, because it's also like they say to you, pay it, but then you must also pay them. So, and how much are legal costs nowadays?
Yeah. Oh, I'm even afraid to say it online. Someone would think I have money, but it is a lot of money.
And do you feel that Advocate Douglas Shaw, did he kind of assist you with that? Because I believe he kind of does help clients. It's more about getting the result than just trying to see how much you can milk it for, right?
Yes, that is true. And I would love to say how much it helped me monetarily. But we did discuss in terms of, upfront payment that would enable him to set his ducks in a row, if I may say, instead of, being charged on monthly basis or per correspondence. And I felt that was the best way, to handle the matter, because now you can even afford budget on your affordability of the matter. And I think that is one of the things that I appreciated with consulting with him. It wasn't because he's only thinking that, look, I don't want to seem derogatory to other attorneys, but you sometimes doubt that they're dragging the matter to the end so they can get the best out of you. And I was able to negotiate, an upfront payment to say this would help me. This is the amount I have, and I can only afford this far. And I asked, how far will it take you, as my representative or my counselor, and we came to a middle ground whereby I think it was fair for both parties. And he obviously, I know my limitations. I guess he also knows his limitations in terms of acceptance. We came to a middle ground, and I was happy with doing that. And I would recommend any person to to take that route. It worked for me.
And that's, I think, one of the main things is it can be very stressful when you're trying to deal with the banks, isn't it? You've got so many things that you're trying to, that it feels like you're being attacked all the time, and you feel like you haven't done anything wrong, and then you're trying to defend yourself, but you haven't done anything wrong. Hello?
Sometimes, yes, I'm here. First of all, it is really frustrating. I think, you read about how these banking codes and ethics are and how the bank should treat you. You experience the opposite when you get there. There are things that the bank promises, or the law that binds the banks to, or financial institutions to behave. And it is contrary. My experience is contrary to all of that. I found the banks that I would find the banks to be conspiring. Well, obviously I would see it as conspiring before they even talk to you, in a sense that I even went, sorry, I should not be mentioning this online because I do not have evidence of this. I made a complaint. Yeah, I made a complaint to the NCR regarding the very same matter. And the bank provided reason to the NCR without evidence. And my case was thrown out. And that already tells you that there is something unkosher about it. I'm not blaming anyone, but you would not accept reason without evidence. There is a way of handling matters, especially with the bodies like the regulator. And I've tried all avenues. It's only now that I'm getting hope when I've consulted with Advocate Shaw to say there could be a way forward. And I must really thank him for having taken an effort to listen to my case. And since I've met him, I've been online looking at evidence of people that have been ripped off by banks. People are getting ripped off every day. There is no defense. And most of these people cannot even afford legal fees. That's one. They cannot defend themselves against the banks, because the bank, once you defend yourself against the bank, they take everything. Or they make sure that they take everything. And amazingly, I know this is in our country, you cannot be making false accusation. It's amazing how things go through the courts, or even the courts without evidence. I can imagine how do you set a judgment without evidence? I mean, there are judgments that are authorized to say there could be foreclosure, but there is no documentation attached. In my opinion, that is so wrong. It's unethical. I mean,
and it's not fair. It's not fair on a lot of people.
It is not at all. And I'm hoping that people that I in my position could, sometimes stand up.
And I think that's a great thing that you're doing. And I think with obviously some legal assistance from attorneys and advocates, is actually standing in that power and saying, okay, enough now. We've got to start all standing up and saying, this is my experience. This is what's happened to me, and this is how I overcame it, and these are the suggestions that I have. And I think that's one of the things that the reason why we've put this little video series together is to find people like yourself that have had a more positive experience and say, you know what, there is hope. There are people out there like Advocate Douglas Shaw. There are other people, there are other advocates out there who do see the bigger picture and who aren't all just about trying to do their legal job. They care more about people. And you're right, it's about losing your home. And
Yes.
that's essentially what this is all. The main thing that concerns people is about it's your home and it's being taken away. And that's definitely not ethical or fair.
First of all, Advocate Douglas Shaw, who gave me hope. that is a given. And my concern is that, there's a lot of South Africans, people out there, and apparently even internationally, but it has to start here, that are losing their homes because of such matters. And I believe people need to stand up for their rights. I know it's a bit difficult. As I say, in my case, it took 5 years, and I'm not even close to say I've won or I've defended. I'm clean, but it is worth something. I'm sure it has to start somewhere, and if it has to start somewhere, I'm willing to be one of those people that start with the help of Douglas Shaw. And
Awesome.
I really hope people stand up against banks. And apparently there's so many of them out there that are in my position, and they must stand up.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you today. And thank you for all your information that you've given. I'm sure that there's going to be some person out there that's in a similar situation to you that's going to find some form of hope and realize that it's not all, gone to the dogs. There are people out there that can actually assist. So I want to say thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure to chat to you today.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to, to chat and raise out my concern.